Hello, everybody. It's Stephen and Walter here for another edition of So Chatty for August the 21st, 2026. And today we're going to talk about snappers. Yeah, snappers. Red snappers. Get your little minds out of the gutter. We'll come back to that. Okay, but first of all, what have I been working on? Well, Christmas as usual. It's Christmas in August now. And this is the table runner you've seen over the last couple of weeks in bits and pieces. It is now completely together, all done, and it's all rolled up as a potential gift or whatever. I think it turned out pretty good. One thing I sort of forgot to do, but I don't think it makes a big difference, is I didn't do any quilting in the border pieces. I usually do. And I guess in my excitement to get this done, I forgot to do that. But I mean, it's not going to come apart because it's stitching the ditch on all the blocks and everything there. And there's, speckled things in the fabric, so it's fine. So it will do, but it just shows you what you can do with, when you see things on an embroidery site, and those of you that are embroidering for a long time probably know this, but you don't necessarily have to buy a project per se. This was not a project. This was individual blocks that they were selling, and I picked 3 that I thought would work together, and I put them all together. And that's how I created this. So you could do the same configuration you want. But, sometimes we get trapped in the idea that you have to do exactly what the company has put out there, the project, and you don't. You can deviate from the plan. Anywhere from like changing your color scheme to basically sewing a project up in a little bit different way, whatever suits your practices. That makes it very versatile and very customizable as well. So I did that. And do I have something else to show you? Yeah, I want to talk a moment about this because that looked really cool. Somebody on my Wednesday Sew Day put me onto this one, and it's Hello Thanksmas. So you've got the Grinch in those 3 major seasons, right? You've got Halloween, you've got Thanksgiving, and you've got Christmas. Obviously designed by an American because of the order, because for us in Canada, Thanksgiving falls before Halloween. But I know in the States, your Thanksgiving comes at the end of November, where ours comes in the early part of October. But anyways, I thought it was kind of cool. It looked great. And I thought, in my back of my mind, I'm thinking, yeah, I could make this up and it might make a cool bag. And I've have Halloween fabrics and things for that. So, on the front of a tote. But it was on Etsy. I have a problem with Etsy. I don't trust Etsy. I know some of you buy stuff off Etsy all the time, never had a problem. I've had enough problems with buying things on Etsy that I say to myself, no. But I thought I'd take a chance on this. Now, actually, what you are looking at is sublimation printing as opposed to the actual embroidered file. But they both look the same in terms of the way they've pictured it. But just in case you look at it and you go, well, wait, it doesn't look like embroidery. That looks like it's printed. And it is. It is printed, that one. But I bought the embroidery file. And I had a little problem with the person that put that up. They said that it had all the formats, including the format I need for my embroidery machine, and it was all in a zip file. I bought it, cost about $10 Canadian for this file. So really not a cheap file, but it's a fairly complex file too. So, price-wise, I don't think necessarily unreasonable. And I unzipped the file, and lo and behold, there was only one, besides a PDF file with the color changes, there was only one format. And that was a PES. And PES is used by Brother. And I can't use PES on my Janome without converting it in through my Artistic Digitizer, which is a digitizing software program. But they said all formats were there. So I sent a message to the seller, and long story short, went back and forth, and they said they would directly send me to my email the JEF file, which is what I need. And they did, except they sent me the wrong file. they sent me one which is equally cute, and it's the same thing except with gnomes instead of the Grinch. So I got a freebie. So we got that settled out. They sent me the right file. In the meantime, I did convert it. But, you know, you're never sure when you convert something whether that's really going to be proper or not. There are 98 color changes.
Oh my God.
Yeah, exactly. However, that doesn't mean there's 98 colors. I went through all the changes, all the ones, and I wrote down the list of colors. There was about 15 in total, 15 different colors. But the reason there's so many different color changes in this is because some of them just stitch a few lines. Like,
yeah, so like actually it sounds to me what they've done is they've take whatever program they're using for digitizing it, they just imported the picture and sort of let it do its own thing.
and that is why I'm showing you the sublimation version of this, because I think exactly what Walter said is what they did. They did not design this file. They took it, put it through a digitizer, and it did the digitization. And you can do that. I can do that on my program too, but I have not had a great deal of luck with it. And
I've done it when we first got our artistic digitizer. I tried doing Mickey Mouse.
Yeah.
And I had a picture of Mickey Mouse, and it came up with some enormous amount of color changes. And Mickey Mouse has only got red and yellow and black and white and some shades, right?
Yeah.
And so I whittled it down to about, I can't remember how many, 15 or so color changes. But I had to do a lot of work to manipulate the file over and over again so that it only had a few color changes.
Yeah. And so that's what I suspect has happened with this one. Also, I did a little research into the provider of this, and it looks to me like they go on to some kind of online site that will do these things for you. It's a program. It basically is what we're talking about with a standalone digitizer kind of a thing. So it's way too many color changes.
Yeah.
But anyways, I figured out the colors. Of course, they also had it in, I forget what they were using for it. I think they might have been using either Madeira or Isacord. I don't think it was Isacord. Anyways, I have a conversion program on my phone where I can get, approximation of what the same color would be in Floriani, the threads I use. And in many cases, I looked at it and I just went through my stuff and said, yeah, this one I think will work, and that one. So I got it all set up. I still was suspicious that this was going to stitch out properly because it was over 52,000 stitches. It was going to take 145 minutes to stitch out, which, well, that's well over 2 hours, right? Might even a little more than that, but that doesn't count the time it takes you to, you got to unthread, rethread your next color. And when you've got like something that's going to go, you get it all threaded up and it takes you longer to thread the thread than it does for it to stitch that piece out.
Actually, you said it had 50 some odd thousand stitches. 52,000. To me, that looks light considering the complexity of the design, because I've got ones that I've done, Christmas ones, that are over 72,000 stitches.
But what I was afraid of is because of the way that the little ones, like the short ones, that there was going to be stitches on top of stitches, which is not unusual. You do get that. That's how they create shading in many cases. But I thought after a while, this is going to get pretty tight. And basically what you're going to be stitching through is a big knot of thread.
And it can cause a problem with your machine.
Yes. But I stabilized it well and everything, because, when you have something that's like that big with that many stitches, it's going to pull in your fabric and you're going to get ripples and things, and you don't want that. And the way to avoid that is to use more stabilizer. General rule is that I learned is for every 8,000 to 10,000 stitches, another layer of stabilizer, and up to a max really of 4, maybe 5 at the most. But I was also putting a batting underneath the top fabric as well, which eliminate some of the extra
What were you
stabilizer.
using? Battleizer?
No, I didn't
Oh,
use
yeah.
battleizer. I used that white stuff I get from Monfil. I
This
don't know what it's called.
battleizer has some stabilizer in it as well.
Yeah. Well, this other stuff I've been using
Mm.
lately for a lot of things, it works really well too. From it, it's cheaper actually than battleizer, and you get more of it. But anyways, I anticipated there was going to be a problem, so I started stitching it out, and it was going along okay for a while, and then it got to one of the parts that had a lot of thread over top, a lot of thread, and it broke the needle. And that's it. I cut the losses, and I went, okay, I'm not doing this. And it isn't worth the time, the effort, and the fact that you could be breaking needles. And when you break a needle, you could also, screw up your timing on your machine, all that kind of stuff. And didn't want to do it. So, buyer beware. People who put files up on Etsy for embroidery, now your results may vary. Okay, so you don't need to write me comments going, "Oh, I buy them all the time, never have a problem." Yeah, and you're probably the same person who does a one letter on a singlet or something for a baby. Just saying.
And we have heard of other people purchasing things from Etsy that are embroidery files that they have had problems with it.
And there's also copycats. There are people out there who basically, well, okay, let's say it's Chinese, mostly China, from China or, those parts of the world, where they see a design like maybe this one with the Grinch, and they figure it's going to be a big seller. They just do a copy. They don't care about the quality. Take your money and run. Okay? I'm not saying that this particular seller, and I'm not going to tell you who the seller was, even if I knew. I'm not sure I know. I'm not going to say anything about them because I don't know.
Does it have anything to do with the what do you call it, the watermark that's on there?
Yeah, that watermark probably does, but I don't know. It's got Cooper, so, but I don't even know if their name was on. Actually, I should look that up because I don't think that was the name on the as the seller's name, which would also suggest they did a screen capture or whatever.
Yeah.
From it, saved a picture, Nancy Cooper. So I don't know.
Yeah, there's a watermark on it that says Nancy Cooper,
Yeah.
but we don't know where that came from.
No, and but buyer beware. But I thought it was stinking cute, and yeah, but it's not worth my effort to try and make it work. No, not at what it would could cost potentially in damaged machinery and that kind of thing. So just beware of that.
Just be careful. Actually, you're best off sticking with reputable sites.
Yeah. The other thing too, which is questionable here, is copyright.
Yeah.
I just thought of that. The Grinch, anything Disney.
Yeah.
And Disney will pursue you if you try to sell one of their products and you're not licensed to do so.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, maybe this person has a license to do this.
I'm not sure if the Grinch is considered Disney.
I don't know if it's considered copyrighted or not. Yeah, there's a lot when you start to think about this now, after I got over how cute, there are a lot of issues with this kind of thing. So I guess the lesson to be learned here is be cautious about what you buy from Etsy, at least in embroidery files. Personally, stick to the biggies out there like OESD, Urban Threads, Designs by Juju,
Embroidery Library,
Kiwi, Creative Kiwi, and what's the other one from Australia? Sweet Pea. These are legitimate companies who test their products and everything like that. So,
and if you have a problem with their products, you can go back to them.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Now, like I said, I did get an answer back, and they did send me the right file after the other one. So I did get a freebie, but I don't think I'm going to be doing anything with the freebie either, because it's probably the same problem as well. So anyways, buyer beware. Okay, what's Walter got to show us? My shirt.
Okay, well, I still haven't finished this shirt. I only have a few things left to do on it, but I showed it on Sunday.
Yeah.
So this is what it's going to be like. It's very kind of colorful.
It's very pretty.
It's nice.
It's very pretty. And speaking of pretty, my weed shirt today, we went to Costco, and when we were going in, a lady was coming in, and she goes, "Oh, I love your shirt." Oh, okay, thank you. I forgot what's on the shirt. It's weeds. It's weed. Okay, it's marijuana, marijuana on here. Mary Jane, Molly, whatever you want to call it. And I don't know now whether she was being complimentary or being a little sarcastic. Except here in Canada, this is legal.
However, it
Okay.
is colorful too.
Yeah, well, that's why I liked the fabric when I saw it that time. In fact, when I first saw this fabric at Shirley's,
Yeah.
I didn't it didn't even dawn on me this is weed.
Well,
I just saw
actually,
the
she
colors.
pointed it out to us because a woman was in with her granddaughter in the store,
Yeah.
remember? And the granddaughter wanted it as pajamas. And I don't know if the woman realized what it was.
Weed baby. Yeah. Well, you're wearing your fern one today.
Yeah, my fern one.
Your fern. We're very plant based today on it. We're organic. Yeah. Okay, so that's the updates on that. Nothing to show you with Walter's free motion quilting, but we have loaded onto the machine the big flower
Yeah,
panel.
I mean to start it this week, but this week I got
Yeah.
kind of screwed up. So
But yeah, it's been a busy week for running around and doing other things and whatnot. So that brings us to announcements. So sewing with me Wednesdays as usual. Links in the show notes, but you'll also find another link. Now, please, people, read the first line of these links because they are different. One is for the sewing with me on Wednesdays, and the other link is for the pop-up sew day that's coming up 1 week from this Saturday. Okay, actually, I probably shouldn't have put it in today into the show notes for this because now you'll get really confused because it does say the date though. They say the date as well in them, okay? But pop-up sew day, for any of you that missed the correction on that date, originally it was going to be this Saturday. It is not this Saturday. It is not this Saturday. Let me repeat, it is not, no pop-up sew day this Saturday, August 22nd. No pop-up sew day. No. Okay? It has been changed to the following Saturday, August 29th. August 29th. Yes, August 29th. Not the 22nd. August 29th. Why am I repeating this a lot? Because I know I'm going to get an email from somebody late on Saturday. I tried to get into the pop-up sew day, but it wouldn't let me in because it wasn't on that date. And the date is in the link. Okay? It'll still happen. It'll still happen.
you better check the link that it doesn't say the 22nd.
It doesn't. I checked it. I made sure of that. I double checked. But anyway, so that's when it's going to be because we are not available this Saturday because we're going to a party. Yeah, we got invited. And so I'm sorry, but
It might rain all day.
it may be pouring rain, which would be perfect for a pop-up sew day. But anyways, not so much for a barbecue. Okay, so last week's videos. Well, on Monday I talked about pickling jalapenos and my bye peppers. That means they're two color in that. And I also talked a little bit about peppers. I learned a few things about peppers I did not know, and I thought I'd share that information on that one with you as well. Plus, I shared a whole lot of other stuff as I usually do. On the Idiot Quilter, I showed you more Christmas fabric that I just picked up at Ultimate Sewing. Yeah, I wasn't done. I am done now. I'm pretty sure I'm pretty much done on the Christmas fabrics right now. And on our live last week on Sunday, we talked about scammers again, but this time sort of an update on how AI is being used by scammers, which is really scary because now it's getting really hard to tell what's real and what's not real anymore, thanks to AI technology. New resource though for you. Let me just get it up here on screen. I am going to be on TV. Now, not the TV you're thinking. I can't find my cursor. Do you see my cursor? There it is, down here. Fine. Bite my head off. What do I want? I want this button. No, that's not the button I wanted. I want this button. And then I want this button. And then I want this button. Okay. You've heard us talk about this company. It's a Canadian company in Quebec many times because it's where I buy all of my most of my stabilizers and everything like that, and a few other things. And it's Monfil, monfil.ca. Links in the show notes. Great prices, good service, great products and quality. And the products, their stabilizers are a lot less money than, say, buying Floriani stabilizers, which are just astronomically too high for it.
And they're good quality.
And they're very good quality. And I use them all the time. Well, Johnny, the owner of it, reached out to me. He has revamped his whole website, as you can see here, but he has a new button up here at the top in the bar. It says Monfill TV. And so if we click on that, he has started putting up videos about the various products that they sell and how to use them. He does a lot of them as shorts, but he's also reached out to me, and I think he has a few other content creators who have put up, that he asked to have, put up our videos on different things. So he's got one called Ask Angel. Angel, I think, works for him. I'm not really sure. There's Edith, who does free motion quilting. She has tutorials. And look, me, the idiot quilter. And if you click on browse videos right now, you're only going to find one, and it's one that I made a long time ago, where I compared Floriani versus the Super B embroidery thread that Monfil sells. And but Johnny reached out to me and asked if I could send him more videos about. He said it could be on anything. It doesn't have to be embroidery. It could be in quilting and things like that. But in my way of thinking, since one of his major products is embroidery, accessories and threads and stabilizers, I went through my back catalog of videos and I pulled out a bunch. I pulled out about a dozen that talk about embroidery, different things, and I edit them a little bit because they're usually embedded in my idiot quilter thing that has all kinds of other things in it as well, and sent those off to him. And so he is going to put these up starting in September. I don't know if he's going to release them one at a time or all of them at once, but if you're looking for a resource and you're on the Monfill site, check out what's on Monfill TV, because he's got a lot of very good videos showing you how to do things. Like there's something called Badge Master. I bought some of that once, and it's meant to make so you can make patches and stuff. And it's all kinds of tips and tricks and everything like that, behind the scenes, all that kind of thing. So yeah, and you see he's got quite a few. Now a lot of them he has made, or his people have made them. Oh, there's me again. I'm all over the place on here. So yeah, so the link to Monfill is in the show notes, and check them out. Also check out their prices. Remember, it is a Canadian company, so those of you that are Canadians, shop Canadian with it. And
and Steve uses Floriani thread, which they don't sell.
Yeah.
But they sell the Super B or Superb or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, we've never figured out how to say that.
And it's a very reasonable price, and I have all their colors. And when I embroider, I always use their thread, and it works fine.
Yeah, and it's less expensive.
It's
than
quite
Floriani.
a bit less expensive
Quite a lot.
than Floriani.
Less.
You can get a large spool, with a 5,000 meter spool for the same price as a 1,000 meter spool on Floriani.
Yeah.
So,
and it's not cheap shit. I mean,
it's decent. It's nice.
It works
stuff,
well.
So
in that, and he does ship to the United States as well. I don't know how tariffs affect him.
Yeah,
I have no idea. And if you have over $100 Canadian,
if you're Canadian,
you'll get free shipping. Yeah, if you're Canadian, not American, but if you're Canadian, you get free shipping. So it's a win-win for us Canadians all the way around.
Yeah.
Okay, so around the sewing room. Well, I am slowly but surely trying to clean up my sewing room, and I already started with my Floriani threads, as you know, and I showed you that this is where I'm using my 3D printer to help me with storage solutions. And so now all my threads are organized. I showed you pictures of that last week, in my drawers by color as opposed to by the number, because that didn't work out so well. And so that's done. So the next thing I was moving on to was this mess. These are those rust gut carts from IKEA, and you can see I have them filled with fat quarters and all kinds of stuff. And I have taken some of the fat quarters out because I've already started to organize them, because I want to move these rust cuts out of my sewing room because they're just cluttering things up. But in order to do that, I had to find a space for them. Well, I had this space up here on top. And you can see I've already started some of this. Actually, since I took this picture, the whole row up there is all fat quarters in these boxes that I printed out on my 3D printers to hold them. What I had up there before were a whole bunch of 3D printed pin cushions that I was making way back when I first got into 3D printing. And yeah, they're dust collectors. Well, I should have taken a picture of the dust up there. Oh, it was thick. Believe me, you could have made a dust ball just by rolling it across. So we sucked that all away and cleaned up there. And now that's going to be fat quarters. And that will get rid of the bulk of the ones I have in that tray. But that's not all the fat quarters I have. I have IKEA drawers that hold up my pressing or my cutting mat table, my cutting table actually. And those drawers are packed with fat quarters, and I did reorganize them some time ago. And yeah, you know what happens. You're using something, you pull it out. When you're trying to clean up, you just open the door, throw it in, shut the door. Well, the door's almost shut now properly. So I need to go through those.
Not only that, if you have your fat quarters on display, you might be more tempted to use it.
That's right. So I do have another area for fat quarters. Where's the picture? Do I not have the picture? No, I guess I don't have that picture here. Well, I have a cabinet. Actually, if you look behind us, right behind Walter, you see that black thing that's got drawers. Well, those are meant, no, that way. Those are meant for CDs back in the day when we used CDs. Well, then when I got rid of all my CDs and everything, because we don't do those anymore, I decided I was still paper crafting then. I bought all these cheap little pen holders, little pens, what do you call them, pen box. Pencil holder box, and I glued them in, and these drawers pull out and tilt up like this, so you know it was like this, and I got, and I had all my markers and everything. Well, I've yanked those all out, and I've put in boxes that I made right size on the printer, and now I have fat quarters in those. And I do have pictures of this. I will be showing those probably on next Monday on Monday Morning Coffee with Stephen. So you'll get an idea. So I'm utilizing that, but we went to IKEA, as one does when one's looking for storage solutions, and we bought 2 of these. These are only 6 inches deep, and that's all I wanted, and they're only about 39 inches high, and it will go, I have places over on the far side of the room that you can't see right now, next to the 2 windows that are down here, that are big enough to put one of these shelves in each of those. And that's where a lot of my smaller pieces of fabric and my what I've got left of fat quarter bundles and that kind of thing are going to go. I debated on whether to put doors on this. You can get one that has a door on it. But like Walter just said, if you can't see what you've got, out of sight, out of mind, you won't use it. So that's my whole theory with that. And it'll lead from one thing to the next. Then I'll have more drawer space to fill with other things. But I am going to purge. But this is going to take some time. Those shelves aren't together yet. Walter hasn't done it yet. It'll get done eventually. He's better at those. He's had a lot of experience with IKEA furniture.
Yeah, Alex
Over the
drawers
years.
I can do them in my sleep.
Yep, lickety split. And this one doesn't look like it's too complicated
No,
with it, because there's not all that many pieces.
I don't have to put drawers in it.
No, the drawers are a bit of a bitch. But anyways, that's what's
And I have
coming.
to figure out how to hang it up.
Oh, well, yeah, but there's a thing I told you.
Yeah, okay.
At least I saw another picture. I don't know. There's some, we'll figure it out. It's because it's going to get hung up. Um, and now I'm doing an experiment with the 3D printer that involves changing something in the sewing room. Okay, I don't know why I came up with this idea, and we'll see how it goes to fruition. But I'm making these things. What are these, you say? These are risers, adjustable risers. They screw up or screw down. I need them to be about 3 inches tall, which I can achieve with this because I've already checked it out. And I want to take on my cutting area, there is a giant 3/4 inch board covered in canvas, and then I have my cutting mats, my big cutting mats are all on that. And that's what I cut from. And it sits on those IKEA drawers that are the foundation underneath it. But my sewing machine's down at one end, and with the extended table on it, this extended table sits about 3 inches above the top of that table. And it got thinking about it. If I could raise that up and make it flush with the extended table, well, when you're quilting something, or you've got a big piece, you're doing your binding, it won't drop over the edge. I'd have all that space in front of the machine. I already have a table set up to the left of the sewing machine. So basically I have this area that would all be there. So we'll see how these work. I need quite a few of them. I need about 20. And I'm getting there. I've been printing them for the last 2 days. And I think this might work. I'm hoping this is going to work. Not only that, but it could give me some additional storage space because they're going to be 3 inches above the top of the shelving units that are underneath, which means I could slide flat things under it, like rulers, like the rulers I use the most. So I don't know. This is my theory. We'll see how this all works out. I'll keep you informed. Okay. I think that's all I had in pictures there. Yeah, I did. So that takes us to snappers, red snappers. Now, never thought about this before as something to show with the long arm until Adam Sows was telling me that he had bought some red snappers for his long arm. What are red snappers? Red snappers, as you'll see in a minute, if you aren't familiar with them, and you probably aren't unless you're a long armor, it is a method for holding your backing fabric onto your long arm. Now, I float my batting and my quilt top. What I mean by that is they're not wrapped around anything. The only thing that is secured is the backing, and then I place the batting on top of that, and then the quilt top on top of that, and then you baste all the way around it, and it holds it all together. But there's various methods for holding your backing fabric onto it. And I think the best way is, at this point, is we'll go into the Lucy room and I'll show you what I'm talking about. But just before we do that, red snappers are basically a little plastic clamping system. And there are mixed feelings about these. Adam got me thinking about it because he bought some and he hated them. He said they were pulling off.
Now, when we loaded this past quilt here, the flower quilt,
Yeah,
or whatever, Steve had me help him put the snappers on it, and I didn't push down hard enough on one of the end of them, and they released by it.
Yeah, but that was an easy fix.
Yeah, I know, but I'm saying if you have them and you don't securely fasten them, they can slip out.
And we're going to talk about how I securely fasten them. But what Adam was using before that, which many people do, is he pins his backing to the leader, to the piece of canvas that comes out that this is attached to and supports it. And many people do that. I have never pinned, mainly because right from day one, I got the red snappers. They were recommended to me by Tracy at Whirls and Swirls. She uses them all the time. And I have never had a problem with them as long as you are conscious of the way you secure your backing into them. However, that's not to say that Adam did something wrong.
Yeah, I know. Like, I mean, it could be there's a defect in the ones
Yeah.
that he got, or he, or
I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, he's in England and we're here.
Yeah.
I'm not flying to England to help him out.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. We could.
Yeah.
But no. But I mean, Adam's no amateur, right?
No.
So I'm sure he knows exactly what he's doing. But he stabbed himself pretty bad, I guess,
With a pin.
with a pin. I haven't seen that video. He actually had it on camera when he
Mhm.
did that. Well, if you've ever stabbed yourself with a pin in any part of your body, you know it's like. But he got himself, I think, really bad.
Yeah, well, usually the pins that you use for
Are
great big long ones.
they're like hat pins.
Yeah.
They're really long, and yeah, I stick
I
myself.
cringe.
Yeah, I cringe over that. So, anyways, after I talked to Adam about it, and I sound like one of those people that I get all the time. I go, I never had a problem, but it's true. I never really have. But like Walter said, he didn't clamp one down. I didn't realize it wasn't clamped properly, and it let go, but it was easy fix at that point. You don't want him, though, to like what Adam was doing. He's quilting away, and suddenly it lets go. Ooh, that's not good. That's not good. Other complaints about the snappers are that they're really hard to get on, and you'll see there is a way around that, but it depends. If you've got severe arthritis in your hands, or you've got carpal tunnel syndrome or whatever, yeah, the red snappers may not be to your liking. The other thing I've heard of is some people use a zipper. I'm still not completely sure how the zipper, well, I do. I think I got an idea now because one of the people that was on the Sew Day on Wednesday, that's how he does it. And I asked him about it in more detail. And essentially, you sew one half of your zipper into the end of the leader, and then when you put your quilt on, you pin the other half of it to the bottom of your backing fabric, and then you just zip it up. Now, I'm not sure what the advantage of that is because you're still pinning. So it seems to me it's an extra step, but maybe it keeps things straighter. That could be, but I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. It doesn't sound like either that or you find that it's easier to pin the quilt to the zipper part than it is if you pin it.
Well, that could be. That could be. There'd be less stress on it and that kind of stuff. So I don't know. So there are several different ways you can do this. I'm not saying using the red snappers is for everybody, but I'm saying that I have not had any problems, and I love them, and it works for me.
I think it also maybe the design of your long arm may have something to do with it as well, because our long arm has very, very solid rollers.
Well, they're
solid steel.
They're solid steel. They're not.
Yeah, so there's no bending to them.
If you buy a long arm that has adjustable sizing for it, that means you don't have solid pieces, because there's going to be in that part where they're separate and you slide them in and out of each other. That's your weak point, and it can make your bar bow and bounce, and that might affect.
We don't know. May be a little more difficult to put the red snappers on if it bends.
Yeah, that's true, and you'll see why in a second. In fact, well, enough talk. Let's go into the Lucy room and take a look at what we're talking about. We'll go in there and play with our red snappers. That sounded filthy. There we go. Okay, these are red snappers. Now, if you look at them, they're just a piece of beveled plastic with a groove in here. They are expensive. I mean, I don't know you get a package of like 5 or 6 or something in it in a couple of various lengths and everything. So I think it's going to cost you around $100. I guess that's not that expensive given what these are. But these are the red snappers, and we'll talk about.
Well, that's one half of them, right?
That's one half of them, because I'm coming to it. If you get a shot here of my leader, and you see this little end here, little red thing hanging out. Well, what that is, let me put the red snappers down. This is a long stick that goes inside your leader. Now, you have to make a pocket when you first get these.
Right.
Like a rod pocket.
Yeah.
And you just stitch all the way across here to the end of your leader. And there's the other end. Now, I think these are 2 pieces.
Yeah.
That are in here. Yeah, they are. I can feel it. And they go inside. So that's what the red snapper is going to clamp onto. But how do you use these? Well, let's just drop this, shall we? Oops, drop my snappers. This is your leader, okay? And you can see it's dangling
hanging
here.
down.
And this is what you attach your quilt backing to. But to attach these, what you need to do first of all, okay, I know that some, and I'm wondering if Adam did it this way. We thought about it later. I'm sure he knows what he was doing. But you know, here's what some people do. They would probably take their backing fabric and they'd manipulate it under here, and then they'd like probably try and get it on here over that, and then they try to put, impossible. You can't get a good fit with that. And it's very awkward and frustrating. No, what you do is you take your leader and you bring it up over top of this top bar that's here. This is a bar that I have never used. It is another method for attaching your quilts. You can attach all your layers and you can use all these bars, but I float, as I already said, my batting and my top on this because that's the way I was taught by Tracy, and I trust Tracy. So you bring this over top of the bar. And the reason for doing it this way is it's going to give you some leverage. So first thing I'm going to do is just going to adjust this slightly. I just want to put it so it's kind of on the top. Lock it down. And then you pull your backing fabric over top of it. Now you just get it here, you just let it drape for a moment, and then you line it up. Now you have a selvage. Usually when you put your backing fabric onto your long arm, you want to have your selvage at the bottom and at the top. Why? Because the selvage is woven and there's no stretch to it. Like, you can't stretch that. Fabric you can stretch, but the selvage you cannot. And this will help you keep your quilt straight. The idea of when you put your backing fabric onto your long arm is you want to keep it as straight as you possibly can. It won't be perfect, but you try for perfect. So one way to do that is that little ridge part is to match it up with the edge of your selvage, because your selvage is straight. But here is the problem I found. That doesn't give you a whole lot to clamp onto. Let's pull that up here. Now for those who don't want to waste an inch of their fabric, you're not going to like what I'm going to say. I don't do that. I do this. I'll use that first to just guide it, and then I will pull it so that I've got about 1.5 inches, 2 inches of fabric beyond that doweling or pull, or whatever you want to call that part that's in the leader. And then I'll straighten it out to the best of my ability. Make sure there's no wrinkles in it. And now you put on your black or your red snappers. And you just start at one end and you squeeze it. Now you see what I'm doing. I'm using 2 hands and I'm squeezing it. Now I have strength in my hands. I don't suffer from arthritis, luckily.
Yeah.
Yet, anyways. Or carpal tunnel. Because if you've got either one of those, you may find this is really hard to do. And I'm going over it to make sure. See what happened?
That it's secure.
Because when Walter did it, he didn't realize, but this end was kind of like, you got that, but you see?
Yeah, the bow in it.
There's a gap in it.
Yeah.
You don't want a gap. And you can feel it. Now, where's my other red snapper? So then you just add your next one to it. And as I said, these usually come in a package that have some that are this length and then ones that are cut half that length. It doesn't really matter. What matters is there are no gaps. So if this goes off to this edge, which is perfectly all right.
But
now,
you still keep it attached all the way.
Yeah, all the way.
And
I'm just double checking. And that's all there is to it. And that will hold. So then all I have to do is I just flip it. And I start rolling. And as I roll, I watch this and smooth out any wrinkles along the way. And you want to keep, you know, how when you roll up a thing of wrapping paper, you know how the edges will go funny on you? You just want to keep them as level as you can. It doesn't matter if it gets a little crooked down here, depending. Now, if you've got a real pattern backing fabric that's important, that it's really, really straight, then you'll want to be extra careful doing this. But in this case, I don't have to worry about that because you can see this is what the backing looks like, so there's no problem if it goes a little crooked. But you just wind it. Oh, I have to unwind it a little bit here. I've already put this on earlier before we decided to do this video, so that's why I've got to loosen it off. Now, do you attach your batting at the same time? No, you do not. You do not do that. We're only interested in the backing fabric. Now you see how it's going uneven here? Just stop, give it a little tug, smooth it out. And carry on. Now, as I said, I float my top and my batting. And so you can see here, this batting and the top are not attached. Now, normally, I wouldn't be doing, this is kind of backwards because I'd already
Yeah, because we already attached it, right?
Yeah, before we thought we would do this video. So what I'm doing now is I'm just straightening up the quilt as it comes off the roller. One tip too, which has nothing to do with the red snappers, but has to do with when you're floating, don't yank your batting too hard. Batting is fragile. You can poke a hole in your batting or stretch it out. So when you're doing something like this where you're putting it onto your batting, you just want to do what I'm doing, kind of pat it. Make sure there's no wrinkles in it. Just gently tug. And then don't forget to put your clamps back on because they're important. That's just how we know. Slide Lucy over here. And so basically, that's all there is to it. Now,
So you can, so you can see that the red snappers are attached at the top too.
In fact, that's what you put on first, and you do it the same way. This leader part, before you put anything on here, you drop the leader down and bring it up over top of the bar so it's in position. Then you take your backing fabric, you line it up just the way I did it on the bottom, put your red snappers up there, and then you wind your backing. You won't have the quilt on it at that point. You wind your backing until you get close to the end, and then do what I just showed you on this part. And then you do the next layers. And we're not going to go into loading a quilt. We have done loading a quilt before on it. Now this one that's on here, the reason I did it, showed you with the quilt on it, is because I'd already basted it at the top and on the sides here, because that was before we thought about
doing this.
But that's how the red snappers work. I love them. As I said, they haven't given me any problems. But you do you. If you have a method on your long arm that you've been doing for years and it's working for you, I don't recommend then that you go out and buy red snappers, because you know what you're doing. You've already got something that works. So I hope that helps. I hope Adam sees this. I mean, again, I'm sure Adam knows how to do all of this.
Yeah.
But maybe.
But I thought, we just thought that, okay, Adam has a problem with it. Maybe other people would like to know either had a problem with it or would like to know how these work before they go out and buy one.
Yeah, before they go on, because as I said, they're not inexpensive. I mean, they're $100 to $150
Yeah.
for a set of them. So, but yeah, they work very well. Okay, so you can put your comments down below. If you've got any other further questions about that, put that in there and we'll try to answer them. Okay, we're going to go back to the other computer. So, I hope that made it clear how red snappers are used. What are the advantages of the red snappers? Well, it really is a fairly quick process for attaching your quilt backing to your long arm. They are fairly secure. Well, very secure, I find. And yeah, disadvantages, well, I've already mentioned. If you have hand problems, you might have a hard time getting them to clamp in because of the force that you need. I don't find it's a lot of force. Of course, mine are not that new, so they may have been a bit of, stretching in over time in them. But I mean, when it comes time to take your quilt off after you're done, you don't have to worry about pins or anything. You just go, you got it. It's off. So in terms of time saving, I think that's its major advantage to it. Okay. So, comments from last week. Well, there's one comment here that I want to focus on. It comes from Lily. She goes, "Hi, Stephen and Walter. I just finished watching this video. Thank you so much for showing how you do maintenance on your long arm. Although my long arm is not the same as yours, my cleaning routine is about the same. Some of your techniques are different than mine. I'm definitely going to incorporate alcohol in the cleaning of the wheels on my machine." Or do you mean you're just going to include alcohol as you clean it because it makes it more fun? That is a super great idea. Also, I never thought of using shop rags. Another great idea. I try to remember to change my needle often, but sometimes leave it a little too long. Again, thank you so much for this informative video. And there was something I was going to mention that we didn't mention, is not really, and it's got to become now part of my cleaning routine, because we ran into a problem the other day when we were setting up that quilt you saw. The thread kept breaking, and we couldn't figure out. And then I thought, oh, wait, the clamps. There's a part where the thread goes through. It's your tension wheels. And lint and little pieces of thread in that can build up in that over time. You should clean that out as well. And so we did. That really wasn't why my thread was breaking. My thread was breaking because I forgot to put the clamps on when I was doing the base.
Yeah, and I didn't notice it either.
Yeah. And those are little things, but those little things do affect. These machines are very, very pernickety about how they're set up. But to clean those little rings, you have to pull them apart a little bit carefully, and you just take a cloth. Again, use your rubbing alcohol on the cloth, and you just stick it between those and just sort of
they
floss
suggest a lint-free type cloth or something.
You can use dental floss, but not the waxed kind, unwaxed dental floss, and it just gets out any little bits or pieces in there. I also take my little air gun that I have, and I'll give it a little blow on that too, and that helps. But that is not something that I have in my regular routine because I never thought about it until the other day.
Well, yeah, I noticed that there was some residue around the outside of it, and I said, well, what about that? Maybe there's something in there. So
yeah,
but I wasn't focusing on the clamps not being
so that's something that should be part of the routine as well. You got to clean your clamps too. Your tension discs are what we were talking about. So thank you for your comments, Lily. Changing your needle on your long arm is just as important as changing your needle on your sewing machine. And if you're one of those kind of people that never changes the needle on your sewing machine, you'll probably never change the one on your long arm until
you start having problems.
And you have a hole in your quilt, because when the needle gets dull, and you'll hear it, it'll go thump, 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 thump. Kind of like someone's jumping on your quilt like a trampoline kind of thing. That means, oh, yeah, my needle's kind of dull. It's not really going through the fabric the way it's supposed to. It's just kind of punching.
Yeah, and then you might get, stitch irregularities.
Yes, in that too. So that is something, Do I change my needle after every quilt job? No, I don't. I usually change it after every 2. Unless it's a really large quilt and I've been quilting very densely on it, then I'll go, yeah. And for what needles cost, don't cheap out.
I mean, you already have this expensive long arm
Yeah.
machine.
Yeah. So, and also the eye of the needle can wear from the friction of the thread to it. And if you start seeing your thread shredding, and it's like when your thread breaks, take a look at the broken part. Does it look like it's shredded, like something went through and roughed it all up? And that means there might be something wrong with the eye of the needle. And sometimes that'll happen with a brand new needle, very rarely, but sometimes they get missed doing whatever they have to do to keep the rough edges off of it. So it, one of the things you want to try if you're having frequent thread breaks is, first of all, rethread your machine to make sure you didn't miss a step or something didn't pop out of somewhere where it shouldn't be. And if it's still breaking thread, then you might want to just change the needle and make sure your needle is positioned properly in it. So, yeah. So these are all general maintenance tips to keep things running smoothly, because you spend a lot of money on this machine. You want it to run smoothly with it. Okay. I can't think of anything else to talk about today. Anything you... No? Okay, so be sure to tune in to Stephen Walter Live on Sunday. And remember, Pop-Up Sew Day is not this weekend. It's the next weekend. It's August 29th. Okay, keep those comments coming, and we'll see you next time. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Hi, I'm just going to interrupt my program for just 1 second to remind you to like the video, to subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell for future notifications. That's all I ask of you. Show me a little love. Thanks.